Hey guys, hope you're all doing well. In this video, I'm going to be giving you my 7 top tips for playing this instrument, the bodhrán. This is based on lots of years playing this instrument and lots of years teaching this instrument, based on a lot of questions and queries and things that I've explored with my students over the years. This is going to be really helpful for you if you're starting out on this instrument. Equally, if you have a little bit of mileage, a little bit of experience with the bodhrán, these 7 tips are going to be really helpful for you too. So let's jump in with the first tip, tip number 1, which is the chair, getting the right height of chair. Now, I am always banging on about this to my students, but it's really, really important. If we look at how the bodhrán fits to our body, it's resting on the femur bone, the bone between the knee and the hip socket. So if my leg is slanting away like that, or it's hiked up, if I'm on a very high stool, boy band style, right? You know, the drum is going to be sliding away from me the whole time. How am I supposed to develop a practice with the tonal hand, develop movement with my tonal hand, when the drum is constantly rolling away from me? So having a stool that's nice and low, so you can find that angle between knee and hip socket where it's as flat as possible. Now, I'm here in my home studio, so of course I've got this stool here, which is a drum stool. It's a very low one. It's a Pearl brand. I'll link it down below in case you're interested. And this is absolutely perfect for me because I can bring the height of the stool super low. Now, when you're out and about, you're at sessions, you're doing gigs or whatever, you know, you can't sort of necessarily have a rider, you know, saying, I need this particular type of stool or this particular type of seat. But we can sort of try and advocate and sort of find a stool that brings us nice and low, or at least into a position so that femur bone is as flat as possible, so that we can be comfortable. The drum can sit and rest comfortably on that leg. Now, of course, the drum is still going to fall, right? It's not a flat table. Our leg, at least certainly my leg, is not flat, but it's as flat as possible so that when we draw the drum in alongside the body, the crux of the elbow and the rim of the drum, the left hand, the tonal hand inside the drum supporting, we can create that really nice, strong, sturdy position for supporting the bodhrán when we're going to play. Now, of course, when we're out and about playing at sessions, doing gigs and so on, we can't always advocate for exactly what kind of chair is going to be there. Whilst we can sort of maybe have a look around, see if we can find a lower down stool or a chair, that's great. But there are a couple of sort of hacks if there are just high stools or very high chairs, or if you're slightly more petite, you can get some books or get a wedge or a yoga block, put that under your leg, the supporting leg, and that's a really great way to get that height. A really helpful sort of little hack in the case that there are just high chairs available. My second top tip today is posture or use, how we physically use our body when we're playing the bodhrán. Again, you might say, wait a minute, this isn't yoga, this isn't golf or some kind of, you know, extreme marathon running or something like that. But if we think about ourselves, our body as an instrument, how it relates to the bodhrán or any percussion instrument or any instrument that we play, we're setting ourselves up for success. Doing a few little physical warm-ups, making sure we're sitting up nice and tall, our shoulders are relaxed, our head is shooting right up through the ceiling, our feet are square on the floor, we're nice and relaxed, supple through our body. This is going to make the whole experience of learning and practicing, specifically the bodhrán, this is a physical practice. It's not that physical, but it's relatively physical. So getting that posture really nice and relaxed and upright is going to help when you start to develop your practice on this drum. Third top tip today is understanding the materials that your drum is made of, specifically the skin of the drum. This one, kind of an interesting Dalmatian skin. I got this drum from Shawnee McGrath last year. Very, very lovely drum. And it's, I would say, a medium skin. If we think of skins as being thin, medium, thick, and then going into sort of double skins and even sometimes triple skins, although double skins and triple skins, we don't see or hear them too often, but that's very, very, very thick, almost like solid wood or something that when we're playing those. But if we think about thin, medium, thick skins, a lot of the taped bodhráns tend to be very thin lambic skins. I like kind of more of an untaped, medium thick skin, which is a little bit more traditional. It's not super thick like the old school drums. And then you have the thick, which are very solid, almost like leather, that need at least a couple of years to be broken in, sometimes adding dubbing or oils into the skin sort of over the first couple of years to really sort of loosen it up. But this for me is the perfect kind of skin. The medium thickness skins do take a little bit of time to sort of get broken in, I suppose. So over 6 months to a year of pretty regular playing, you'll find that the skin becomes a lot more tempered or stable. It doesn't kind of go up and down very drastically when it's hot or cold or whatever. You'll also find, of course, that the sound improves. That's what it's all about when we're playing, getting that warm, earthy, traditional sort of bodhrán sound. At least certainly that's the sound that I'm going for when I'm playing. So understanding what skin you have and what you can do to get the best sound out of it. All right, so if we're looking at a medium skin like this one is a tunable, so very good that I can just sort of bring it up and down as I need to. Sometimes for recording sessions as well, the key in which the track is being recorded is very important, so I can tune to sort of find a note that suits the key of the music that I'm playing along to when it's damp, when there's a lot of moisture, or indeed when it's very dry, like in the midsummer here in London where I'm based. So really helpful to have that. But the other little tool that you can use is this guy, little spray gun. It's not like a kind of a sprayer for cleaning. It's like a little mist spray. Let me see if I can kind of do this without catching my camera. Whoa. So you see it just kind of sprays a little mist. And what I do is sometimes for these medium skin drums that are kind of, you know, can take a little bit of moisture without sort of stretching out, just give it a little spray. I did 3 there, didn't I? But just a little spray on the front of the skin, because I'm going to be playing the drum. If I spray on the back and then start rubbing it, it's going to rub away on the epidermis of the skin. And it's worth remembering that goat skins are like layers, like an onion. So you can peel them and peel them and peel them back. And that's where the thin skins come from. They're just peeled and sort of treated, sometimes with chemicals, sometimes with sort of natural tanning. I believe tallow and oak chips, sometimes, you know, different techniques used, manure and so on, to sort of strip back the layers. Whereas other skins like calf skins and I believe deer skins are just kind of thick hide. You know, you can't sort of shave them back too much, really. They're not in layers. So that's what's interesting about the goat skin and what makes it so effective as a drum skin, indeed for the bodhrán. Of course, it's what's traditionally used for bodhrán too, so we tend to like that. So that's my top tip for understanding the skin, and that's going to of course help you get a much better sound from your drum. Now, my next tip is a really important one. It's about the angle with which we strike the bodhrán. Again, I talk a lot about this in my courses and when I teach in person as well. One of the questions I get asked a lot is, why do I keep getting that scratchy sound when I'm playing my bodhrán? And that comes down to the angle with which we strike the drum. So if you see here, I'm right in alongside the drum. Whoa, horrible, scratchy, scratchy, scratchy. So that's kind of right in close. And then what if I come right all the way out? That's about a 90-degree angle. Again, mega scratch. Now what if I find that sweet spot, like a 45-degree angle? There we go, we get a much more articulate, clean sound. So I actually have to position, moving from my elbow forward and back, as you can see, and go right out to 90, all the way back into this parallel position, all the way out to 90, and find that kind of 45-degree angle. Also really important to mention that different tippers, different sticks will have a different tip, right? So we got to make sure that we find the right angle for our tipper. Yeah, so some tippers have a very sheer angle. Indeed, some tippers even have just like kind of a marble sort of style ball tip to them. They're very forgiving in terms of finding that right angle. Very often why they come with sort of beginner bodhráns and so on. But with a tipper that has a little bit more of a sheer angle, you're going to have to just eyeball it. Look with your eyes at the tip of the tipper and find that really perfect angle. It's always in and around the 45 degrees. Don't have to get your measuring tape or your sort of geometry cut out to measure, but you can eyeball it. And that leads me on to my next tip, which is look at your instrument when you're playing it. I know that sounds crazy, but in this world of technology, when we're looking at screens all the time and we're learning from screens, me included, learning new things online all the time, it's pretty amazing. but sometimes I forget to actually look at what I'm doing. Looking visually with my eyes to my instrument. Now, this seems really obvious. 2 ears, 2 eyes. People talk about the ears being important for musicianship, developing your musicianship. We've got 2 eyes, we've got 2 ears, they're next door neighbors. They work in tandem. It's multi-sensory when we are playing, okay? So when you're looking at the tip of your tipper, for example, when you're playing and the sound isn't right, you can see maybe that your angle isn't right, so you can make that micro adjustment and then listening, hearing what you're doing, saying, hey, that sounds good. That's the right sound. You're giving yourself that visual cue so that you can see how to get that good sound, or indeed how not to get the bad sound. Okay, tip number 6. This is, again, might seem really silly, but this is such an important thing to think about when you're playing. When things aren't flowing as I want them to in my playing, differentiate between your elbow and your wrist. Differentiating between your elbow and your wrist. Now, what do I mean by that? Sometimes when we're playing, we can just think down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. Everything is moving. My shoulder, my elbow, and my wrist, all together at the same time, right? And what we want to try and do when we're playing is try and isolate the wrist, isolate the elbow, and we don't really need to worry about the shoulder. But if you want to be a little bit more theatrical, you can bring the shoulder into it as well, of course. But really identifying between the elbow and the wrist. Our wrist is where all the magic happens, and our elbow is where the sort of inflection and the accents happen, and also where we start to feel the groove of the pattern that we're playing. So again, we can just look at our elbow, look at our wrist when we're playing. In fact, when I'm leading workshops, I'll often go, look at your elbow, look at your wrist. Then of course everyone panics and goes, what am I doing wrong? And it's not really a kind of, you're doing it wrong, or your elbow's moving when it should just be your wrist. It's just bringing awareness to that movement, just bringing the awareness visually, looking at the elbow, looking at the wrist. Try it in your practice, write it on your practice notepad, and let me know in the comments, is your elbow going when you're just working on your wrist? Yeah, and just bringing that attention is what it's all about. Now my final tip number 7, is active listening. We listen to music, we listen to podcasts, we're listening to the sounds in the world around us all the time, every day. Particularly I think of, with audiobooks and podcasts myself now, and music, I just have them on my headphones when I'm doing other things. This is passive listening. It's okay, it's fine, it's not bad. But when we are practicing our bodhrán, when we're practicing any musical instrument, we want to practice active listening. So when we're playing, say, reels or jigs or hornpipes or whatever it might be, we're listening to the music almost like a detective when we are playing. Listening to the layers, listening to the feel of the music, and almost trying to pick out what is happening within the rhythm, within the harmony, within the texture, so what we play on the bodhrán actually enhances the music, not just adding to the sound, not just doing something that kind of fits to the music, but something that enhances the music, that actually makes sense musically and creatively. So these are my 7 tips for bodhrán players. I hope you find them helpful. Let me know how you get on with them in the comments, and if you're interested in learning more about the bodhrán, you might want to check out my courses, How to Play Bodhrán, Begin Your Journey, Develop Your Practice, and Expand Your Horizons. I'll leave the link for them down below, and indeed I have a load of other videos here on my YouTube channel, also some documentaries you might be interested in. So do check them out. Let me know how you get on with this video in the comments. Enjoy your practice, guys, and see you in the next video. Bye bye.